Welcome back to another video by me, RJB, here at Starcraft Cast's YouTube channel, owned by me, RJB. And today I've got something that should be, well, I always say this, that should be exciting. So first of all, hope you're all doing absolutely swell. I've been having a great week. I managed to get myself a lot of great replays for both fastest map and pro replays played in 2020 that you'll probably be seeing on another channel in the very near future. So I hope you're looking forward to that one, because there's a lot of 2020 Brood War content coming your way from multiple sources, because I've been dishing out replays left and right. That's gonna be a surprise for y'all. So here we've got Topton. Well, Topton, more likely. Not really a tune, because he put only a single O there in the name. And a lot of T's, a lot of N's, so it's kind of like a Topton instead of Toptune. But it's supposed to be Toptune. Anyway, you might be wondering who is Topton. Well, it is LuckYback. I have no idea why he went for this name. Maybe he got sponsored by Topton, which is a website for webtoons. Hence the tune in the Toptune name. Playing the Protoss here on the bottom corner of the map, on the right side of the map, and his opponent is Toki under the name Yang Shigi Sun Yun. He's playing the orange Zerg on the opposite side of the map, the top right corner. Already has his overlord scouting there to the side. Didn't see anything there on the sides. Now he's pulling it up to the hill here on the middle. Same thing. This overlord's going to do the same thing. Scout this spot, then move over to the hill here on the middle. So he has vision of whatever is entering his base. I'm going to change the colors up a little bit because it's a little bit easier to see. Though the gray is kind of nice for a change. Though it's light blue, pale blue, gray blue. One of those. Scouting the middle right of the map first. He went for a +1 Nexus at 9:17. Right after the pylon finishes, or 10:17. And then followed it up with 3 gateways. I really like this build. It gives him a little bit of punching power in the early phase. He knows it is Protoss versus Zerg, so he's catering his build order specifically towards Zerg. 1 early gas there. He is looking for a choke, but there is no choke. He is, however, diligently scouting the mineral patch as well. Rabbit went for a no choke build order because he knows that LuckYback is most likely starting off with a +1 Nexus, which he did. Which means he can afford to go for 2 hatcheries before a pool, and then another hatchery, of course, they're in the mix. Went for a very early quick gas because he wanted to go for the pull and Zergling speed. So he's massing up on Zerglings, trying to go for somewhat of a counterattack on LuckYback. But whether that is going to work, I don't know. I hope it is, because it would be fun to see Zerglings pull off some damage on a Protoss. But honestly, he already has a couple of Zealots out, more Zealots spawning right there as well. He's got a Forge on the way, he's got a Cybernetics Core on the way, which means more Zealots and Cannons as well. So I think that LuckYback is going to be somewhat fine. So I don't think the Zergling speed is going to work out all that well. But it does look like he's banking on, planning on not going for a very high drone count. He just wants to make Zerglings. Zealots, however, are amazing against Zerglings. He's going for a delayed choke attempt. But I think it's going to be futile, because honestly, Zealots, ooh, they're so good against Zerglings, specifically if you line them up like this. He's trying to get through, gets through around the hatchery. That's actually pretty smart that he saw that opportunity. So now he can still get the surround on those Zealots, but LuckYback is very smartly clumping all of his Zealots up in a tiny little bit hole there that he saw Rabbit use. So now Rabbit is kind of still suffering, losing a lot of his Zerglings, but eventually he will take down those Zealots, but he's losing too many Zerglings to really justify that attempt at a fight and a surround. He does come up on top, but that's a lot of Zerglings lost against only 7 Zealots, I think? I mean, was it 7 or 8 Zealots? Anyway, he lost a lot of them. And he might have enough to at least start punching, but the punching won't be hitting that hard. Actually, another round of Zealots just spawned, so the punching is going to be, well, not present. It's not going to happen. There's going to be no punches here from Toki onto LuckYback. LuckYback already has his Zealot legs on the way. He's adding on more gateways because honestly all he needs at this moment is a lot of units to break through this frontal portion here very early. Rabbit is at the meantime still droning up, distracting with those Zerglings. The upside of having those Zerglings here inside of LuckYback's base is the fact that those Zealots have to remain here because he can kill that single cannon if those Zealots leave. So it does keep LuckYback busy for now, but I don't think it will really do all that much. Because LuckYback is going to keep scaling up. His probe count is on 40. Rabbit is on 30, 28, making suckers in the front, using the axe there to wall off access to the base. But I think he can almost walk around, or maybe only Zerglings can sneak through that little portion here on the top and the bottom side. But he is sunking up. LuckYback decides to just completely ignore the Zerglings that were harassing him inside of his base and go and move out and try to at least stop this massive wall of Sunkens from coming up. But he's a little bit too late. Toki managed to get them up there in the front. Oh, really well done from LuckYback there. It also means that now Toki is on his lair. He's got a Hireless Den already finished up. And even a Spire. He loves to go for a Spire because he likes to use Mutalisks in his defense strategy. Because most oftentimes, the first attack wave from the Protoss comes in the form of Zealots and perhaps some Reavers in the front as well. Mutalisks are really good against that specifically. And LuckYback tried to take down the hatchery, which he could have done, but he decided not to. He could have done it, but he decided not to. He's going in for another attempt. This time he's going to get that pesky hatchery and open up a hole. And now that there's a hole, it's going to be easier for him to have access to those Sunkens and break through the choke. So that was a smart move from him. So the pylon there in the front already up, which means that there's now going to be robotics facilities. He's going to set up for the attack that I just mentioned. Reavers combined with Zealots. He does have a lot of gas income, but I think he's going to spend most of that on a couple of Corsairs, some upgrades, and possibly Reavers, or most definitely Reavers. So I'm not expecting Dragoons to be coming out sometime soon. He is, however, researching that Singularity charge for Dragoon range, but I don't think he can afford that many Dragoons yet. So he's just going to be going for Shuttles, Shuttle Speed, Reavers, and Corsairs. Corsairs, of course, to fight off Overlords and to deny Toki vision of his sides, which he's now getting and establishing with those Overlords that he's setting to his sides. To give you a quick glimpse, this is the vision he has on the minimap. Like all the way over there, you can even show it like this. Here's the vision here. That's what he sees, and he wants to maintain that vision, and LuckYback wants to deny him that vision, because without that vision, it's going to be easier to fly in shuttles that have something in them. The shuttle is just there to scout, but it's going to sacrifice itself in the act of scouting. Cannons there just to protect those robotics, but also to help with containing Toki inside of his base. Toki very smartly threw down the Queen's Nest there in his choke, so he could get that hive, but also to wall off the Sunkens without really wasting minerals. So that's a smart move. At the same time, he's droning up massively. He's droning up absolutely massively, which is actually somewhat facilitated by LuckYback not deciding to stick to being on the offense or going for very early Templar or Reaver drops inside of Toki's base, which gives Toki a lot of time, and Toki knows this, and Toki actually is risking this extremely hard, because LuckYback could have had more shuttles and storms out already, but he went for a lot of Zealots there at the start, which slowed him down. Toki, of course, knows that, but LuckYback could have changed his spending pattern a little bit earlier to start punishing Toki a little bit more, but instead LuckYback is opting to go for a very big mass. He's planning on macroing up really quick, really fast, and going for a super massive attack instead of small attacks that periodically wear his opponent down. But Rabbit is being pretty smart. He went a lot of Mutalisks that are very mobile, can snipe shuttles, they can snipe Reavers as well. So there's no Dragoons, but there are Corsairs to fight against the Mutalisk, which is a very smart choice by LuckYback. Because these are also multi-purpose. units. They can deny vision, they can kill overlords, they can kill mutalisks, they can protect the reavers. But a lot of scourges now coming out here from Toki. Toki, ooh, LuckYback micros himself out of that nasty situation quite well. Keeps the Corsairs alive there in the back. Ooh, he splits up his Corsairs to avoid maximized damage from those mutalisks, and mutalisks now forced to pull back. Toki already on 64 drones, and this is honestly one of those things where playing very risky, like Toki is doing right here. He's playing very risky by making so many hatcheries so extremely quickly in rapid succession with very little units. He's now, though, making a lot of units because he managed to scale up that quickly, but it's very, very risky. That can backfire very, very quickly if the opponent goes for more concentrated, quick, early aggression in small waves, and he manages to land a hit on units or on drones. Instead, Toki's now pretty big. Massive frontal attack coming in here, though, from LuckYback Dragoons with some upgrades, Reavers with upgrades as well, although the Scarab upgrade damage is still on the way. So actually no upgrades on those Reavers. Corsairs are dealing quite some damage to the Overlords, the units, the Dragoons, the Reavers, the Zealots are tearing through the Sunkens, but the Hylists get pulled back to safety really, really well here by Toki. But nonetheless, LuckYback is inside the base of Toki, and he's got to employ all of his Hylists if he wants to fight this off. At the same time, a lot of his Overlords are dying to the Corsairs at the same time, and that's a really, really great move from LuckYback here, because he's going to put Toki into a supply stuck state after he clears out all these units here in the front. More Overlords have spawned just now, though. The Corsairs are all still alive. Reavers here in the back still taking down those Hylists, and Toki's mass is now really small because of the fact that LuckYback took down most of his Overlords at the same time as going for the frontal attack. So it's kind of like, I'm going to kill your supply, and I'm going to deny you the ability to refill your supply at the same time. That's a really smart setup there from LuckYback. It didn't work out exactly as he wanted it to, but at least he broke through the front. At least he forced Toki to spend all of his minerals on rebuilding his mass and his Overlords. And Overlords are so damn expensive if you have to make a lot of them at the same time as you have to make your units. 100 apiece. Not cheap. Not cheap at all. Does have Overlord speed on the way though, so it will be a bit easier for his Overlords to stay alive. Got ground upgrades on the way as well for those Hylists. He already has level 1 upgraded. He's got Carapace upgrades on the way as well. And upgrades for Zerglings in the mix too. Call of Guardians are morphing up. Corsairs there, of course, wreaking havoc. Once again, killing Overlords. Toki once again in a supply deficit. Or an overshoot. He's overshooting his supply capacity. LuckYback is playing it very, very slowly here. Mostly using his Dragoons to protect his Reavers and using his Reavers to deal the damage. At least the structural damage. And no shuttle speed here. He forgot his shuttle speed. It's still on the way. He forgot it earlier. But the shuttle finds its way through because Toki is distracted by the fight they're happening in the front. Now the drop is coming in. Drones get pulled off the minerals. He does get a storm off and he kills a single drone. That's honestly a miracle. Killing only a single drone. That was one of the tightest pulls I've seen in a while. Half a second later, or even a tenth of a second later, and he would have lost a lot of drones there and probably be forced to forfeit the game. But he stays alive. Gets himself a little bit of counter-punching power because he fought off that mass there in the front from LuckYback. But his supply is still smaller. But because he's Zerg and has so many hatcheries, that doesn't say all that much because he can replace it so quickly. But also keep in mind, he was forced to pull off his drones, so his income was slowed down for a very short period of time, which is giving LuckYback the edge in terms of reproducing and refilling up his Psy cap, which he has done. He's filled up his Psy cap quite quick. And the fact that the opening here is still, the front is still open. Or you could say there's still a huge opening here in the front of Toki's base. LuckYback has the advantage in terms of he can break into Toki's base. And he's got better upgrades as well, because already on 1.0.1.2 he's got level 2 armor and level 3 weapons on the way. No shield upgrade on the way though. And another drop comes in. This time he wriggles his way between. It's 28. Oh, he actually kills all the drones. He used 3 storms, kills all the drones that were on the minerals, and put Toki down from 80 drones down to 22. So he killed about 50. Oh, 60 drones. He kills 60 drones. And a really bad timing there for Toki, because if he had managed to snipe those Templars or snipe the shuttles, he would have had insane punching power, because he just cleared out that entire mass here in the front that LuckYback sent in for the attack. But now Toki is stopped in his tracks, because he sent out this wave of attack into the middle, but then he kind of loses that mass. And then he kind of doesn't have the economy to refill and replace his lost mass. And another drop comes in. Oh, Toki. His awareness is really off point this game. His awareness is honestly really off point. Usually he is one of the best players when it comes to dodging storm drops. This game he gets hit by 2 in a row. He almost missed another one here earlier that he managed to dodge by an inch, a hair's breadth. But he still got hit nonetheless, although it was only 1. It was really close call, too close, so his awareness seems to be off here. His awareness definitely seems to be off. LuckYback is playing this very smart because he's going straight in on those drones. He's going to kill drones with the Dragoons and the Zealots. What a nasty, nasty move here by LuckYback. Circumventing the Guardians and the Lurkers here in the front and just walks straight in. And I think he kills about another 6 or 7 drones there in the process of sending those Dragoons there into the back, which is definitely worth it, because Toki cannot afford to lose any of his drones anymore at this point in the game, because all LuckYback has to do is send in some observers here, which I'm sure Toki is going to try to snipe, but when he does, of course, the Reavers are going to take it down. Nope, never mind, he's going to use Scorches, but this one stays alive. He managed to snipe the Scorch with the Dragoons, so that was really, really close. He managed to keep the Observer alive, managed to kill the Lurkers there in the front. So now he's going to go for the push inside of Toki's base. Toki's not liking this. He's hurting really bad. Honestly, LuckYback is just playing this really well. Shuttle there, another shuttle there, but there's something in the shuttle. But he's faking it, he goes in, and the shuttle dies. The Templar was unloaded, but the Templar storms, and the drones once again go down. It was a very, very tight Templar storm there that almost did not happen. But he actually managed to unload the Templar within the last possible thousandth of a second to get that storm off on the drones. And Toki gets overpowered despite the risk that he took in the early game and the mid game to get himself an economic advantage as compared to if he hadn't risked it so hard, because he honestly risked it extremely hard. But LuckYback just plays it really solidly. No fancy, well, there was some fancy stuff with the Corsairs clearing out Overlords while killing the mass at the same time. That was somewhat fancy. And honestly, a good pickup for players to use in their own Protoss versus Zerg. Honestly, it was pretty smart. He played it somewhat textbook, did all the things he had to do. Made Reavers, made a mass, had Templars, had Corsairs to kill Overlords and Guardians, had Storm Drops that were quite consistently managing to reach the destination. Partially because Toki was so occupied with fighting here in the front because he lost his choke, but also because he seemed to not be as aware as he used to be. So he might be a little bit out of shape. Definitely a little bit out of shape. And LuckYback, of course, always performs at a really high level. So yeah, somewhat of a decent game. So I've got another one. This time they're gonna switch races. So game number 2. Or technically game number 7 in the best of 7 series. But these were the last 2 games in this series, and the score was evened up in the last one, but I didn't bother to mention it because honestly this series is too long and I just wanted to cast these last 2 replays because they were Protoss versus Zerg and then Zerg versus Protoss. We've got LuckYback on the Zerg, we've got Toki, aka Lovely Rabbit, aka Yang Shigi Sonyun, here on the Protoss, on the top middle of the map, and the Zerg occupied by Topton. So it's a little bit of a reverse. It's kind of honorable to just pick the reverse matchup that you just won. To give your opponent an equal chance with the same matchup. I really like the concept. You play Zerg, I play Zerg. I play Protoss, you play Protoss. A little bit of sense of equity and equality. Equal chances. Of course, equal chances do not imply equal outcomes. And that's what we're here for. What will the outcome be? Can LuckYback change fate or expectation? Because Protoss tends to win against Zerg on fastest map, but can he defy expectations and take home the win against Rabbit or not? That's really why we're here. In the past, LuckYback has already displayed really good Zerg versus Protoss performances against players like 458, Lee Bok-gu, and Voss. And I haven't really seen much other Zerg versus Protoss from him. Well, yeah, I've seen it against Trisha as well. He's played against Trisha as well. We've got that as a point of reference too. He's a solid Zerg versus Protoss player, sometimes a little bit gimmicky, because there's one specific trick he likes to do, that is using burrowed Hydralisks as a defense against drops, where like if a drops flies over his burrowed Hydralisks, the shuttle will fly straight on and assume there are no Hydralisks there. Then he unburrows those Hydralisks and starts sniping the shuttle, while the shuttle is right on top of the Hydralisks. It's a little gimmicky. It is smart, but a little gimmicky. And also very risky, because if it goes wrong, if you're too late with the unburrow, the shuttle will fly all the way through, reach its destination, namely your drones, and kill your drones, and you'll most likely lose the game. Which is something we've also seen happen in the past with LuckYback, where he was too late with the unburrow. But, there's a huge but here. There's a huge but. And as a man once said, I like big butts, and I cannot lie. And this is a big but that I have to address. He went for 3 hatcheries, 4 hatcheries, and then a pool, which is the definition of greedy. It doesn't get much greedier than that. 4 hatcheries is going to give him a huge economic drone boom, a very quick head start over Toki, who went for only a +1 Nexus. Like 4 hatcheries start as a Zerg is basically making 3 Nexus as the Protoss, or maybe 2 Nexus. Anyway, the point is, the Sunken finishes up just in time. He's got hatchery number 6 or 5 on the way. Got Zerglings now on the way as well. He is not upgrading Zergling speed because he can afford it. There it is, Zergling speed is on the way. So it's kind of the same strategy as Toki went for last game, but it's riskier than Toki's strategy, because Toki went for 2 hatcheries into a pool, LuckYback 4 hatcheries into a pool, but he does have the Zerglings out in the middle of the map now, ready to stop and hunt for the probe and stop the cannons from finishing up here in the front. But a single cannon does finish up. He manages to wriggle his... Nope, he does not manage to wriggle his way through, because most of the Zerglings there died. He didn't get the probe either. He's going to go in for the probe once again, though. He wants that probe dead, so he's going to hunt for it. Or is he going to ball up his Zerglings here in the front and on the side, so he can get a surround on the cannon and possibly the probe, and still prevent this cannon block from happening. But more Zerglings are on the way here from Toki, who is doing the same build order as LuckYback did last time. So he's being a little bit more conservative. Also, there's no choke here in the front from LuckYback. LuckYback is deciding to play it without a choke, which I think is honestly the right choice here, because he went for so many hatcheries that his economy would have been bigger, but he does have a very big Zergling mass as a result of it. So no big economic boom, but a very big Zergling boom. The Zergling boom is falling flat, because Toki has a lot of zealots here protecting the cannons, and Zerglings are not that great against zealots protecting cannons, because first they have to try to force their way through the zealots, then they have to kill the cannons, and the cannons are killing so many Zerglings in the process of trying to tear through those zealots, and you kind of end up losing the entire Zergling mass. So he's going for option number 2. He's keeping his Zerglings inside of his base to at least deny those zealots offensive ability within his base, and he's droning up at the same time. And considering he already has 5 extra hatcheries there, the droning up process is going pretty quick. Already went from 14 to 33 within a minute. But Toki has his Zealot Lax finished up. He's got Singularity Charge on the way as well, and level 1 weapon upgrade for the Zealots as well. But LuckYback gets a great surround on those Zealots, but the Zealots, having speed, managed to wriggle their way out. More Zealots now coming in from the side and getting a surround on the Zerglings. So the Zerglings trying to surround instead get surrounded themselves, and most of them go down. Now pulling back to their Sunkens, but there's a lot of Zealots there, and I'm not sure if these Sunkens will be enough. Is he gonna need another wave of units very quick? He's got Zealot Hydralisk Lax on the way. Got Hydralisks themselves on the way as well. More Sunkens are finishing up. They're very slowly withering those Zealots down. Zealots eventually forced to retreat once the Hydralisks arrive on the scene. More Zealots arriving there as well. He's got a robotic facility there on the way, another robotics on the way as well, and a lot of gateways here inside of his base have finished up too. And LuckYback is now going for the burrow upgrade that I mentioned earlier, because he wants to snipe those shuttles using the burrow upgrade. He's got support bay on the way, temporal archive on the way, more forges, singularity charge is finishing up, support bay finishing up as well, and yeah, more pylons here because he's going to make most likely gateways on the middle. That's why he's making more pylons. He's not going for more cannons, which is a little bit risky. One-man fight erupts here because Toki wants to be the aggressor and keep LuckYback on his toes and force LuckYback into spending his minerals on more Hydralisks instead of spending his minerals on hatcheries and drones. Has a lair there in the back, Spire on the way here as well. Got Hydralisk range now finishing up soon. Got level 1 upgrade for spines, needle spines for the Hydralisks on the way. And he's slowly pushing Sunkens out to the front of his base. And there is the burrow. He's going to wait for Toki's units to walk over and possibly snipe the Reavers. Because, of course, there's no drop coming yet. At least so I assume, because he does have the option to drop. But I think he's going to try to go for a frontal push with the double Reaver first. And the Zealots, of course, in the mix as well. Steadily pushing out those Sunkens. He's slowly getting bigger, not in hatchery count, but in army size and sunken count. Static defense, you should count them as a unit as well. So yeah, Toki now has an absolute massive ball of about 30 Zealots going in, and there comes the Hydralisk, burrow and burrow, but they cannot snipe the shuttle because Toki responds rather quick, and he can't get the Reaver either. So Toki now on the push. Pushing in, killing Sunkens, killing Hydralisks, but here he burrows the Hydralisks that were still there. Really smart move from him, and kills both the Reavers that are in the back, which kills a lot of Toki's offensive pushing power than if those Reavers had been alive. But nonetheless, he kills pretty much all the Sunkens here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 Sunkens going down. Number 11 might be there soon. So he kills 11 Sunkens with that push and pretty much undoes all the work, all the hard work LuckYback put into building the fences. But there's a big but, and I like big buts, so I won't lie, and I can't deny that this Mulus flock is flying in and it's going to kill all the cannons there because there is only 2 cannons. There is a Templar with energy, storms the Mulus, but he misses the Mulus to a degree. So the Mulus barely staying alive. Kills both the cannons, and attackers coming into his base at the same time, but the Sunkens are pretty well walled off, so he can't go in. So instead he has to focus on defending. More Mulisks are on the way from LuckYback into Toki's base. Toki is losing the cannons there. He's going to lose the Nexus as well. And this game is suddenly looking very good for LuckYback. Unless he somehow miraculously starts losing those Mulisks here, this game is looking very well for him. Very well. The Nexus is going to go down. Toki is losing a couple of probes in the process as well, because the damage is splashing all around. Ooh, drop here, a drop landed. I barely caught it. I think he killed about 20 drones. That's a huge hit, huge hit. That's going to at least equalize the damage. Well, I don't want to say equalize. Yeah, it's going to equalize the damage that Toki took here because he took down 20 drones. And considering LuckYback is this small, those drones dying are absolutely huge. You could argue losing those drones is a bigger hit to LuckYback than this losing a Nexus was a hit to Toki, because Toki still has a lot of probes that are providing him a steady income, and he still has a steady gas income as well, and he already has most of the infrastructure that he needs to produce units. He's got 8 gateways here in the middle, so another 6 here in his base, and another 5, so a total of 19 gateways to help him produce units en masse. And 2 robotics. He's got all the tech that he needs, although not yet all the upgrades. He's got mules flying into Toki's base, but Toki fights it off by having the Dragoons and the Archon there. So now LuckYback is going to have to look for something else to do. And once again, Reavers being dropped here on the top side of LuckYback's base, which are going to kill a couple of Hydralisks and a Sunken, I assume. A Sunken die here. But honestly, not that much gets achieved with those 2 Reavers. But, that's a small but, because those are empty. Actually, that's a non-existent but, because there's nothing in there. There's just nothing here, nothing of substance, not a but at all. So yeah, he goes in for the frontal attack once again. LuckYback is getting caught out by accident, a little bit sloppy by him. But more importantly, there's no observers here from Toki. Does he have the observatory? There's the observatory, so he can soon detect those lurkers. He's got 2 observers on the way, forced to pull back here. LuckYback buys himself some time with those lurkers. But the game is looking quite grim for LuckYback, because his drone count is still quite low. And oh, he's doing the thing where he... Why aren't those lurkers attacking? He's attacking with his units, but not attacking with the lurkers. Is he using them in hold position? Does he have Toki allied? What's going on with those lurkers? Oh, he starts attacking, and there he goes. Yeah, that was quite interesting. I'm not sure why they were not attacking, but they're attacking now, and they're dealing damage. Would be nice if they were attacking earlier while those Dragoons were accidentally walking over the lurkers. But nonetheless, Toki here on the edge here, because he's got a huge mass, almost on 200, whereas LuckYback is only on 100 supply. It's going to be a very, very difficult task for him to fight this off. He does have mules, he does have Hylas, he does have lurkers, he got a couple of Sunkens, but he doesn't have all that much. He's still the same size, basically, as he was... He's basically still the same size as he was 8 minutes ago. Hasn't added... Oh, drop comes in, drop doesn't get sniped, drop gets missed. There's a Templar in there, Templar survives, Templar gets a storm off, Templar misses the storm. No, he hits the storm, he kills 6 drones. Oh, another 6 drones there, dead for LuckYback. LuckYback is in a very bad spot here. He will manage to fight off this tiny wave of Dragoons that are trying to break in, trying to tear LuckYback down. LuckYback fights it off because he's got some upgrades, he's got some units. But LuckYback, Toki also has some upgrades, level 1 armor, level 2 weapons. He's got level 3 weapon on the way, and level 2 armor. So it's going to be level 3 weapons at about 14.5 minutes in. LuckYback is now pushing Toki back a tiny bit, but Toki is almost already back on 200 supply. He's over 100 supply ahead over LuckYback once again, who's now on 82. And only on 33 drones, and he cannot afford to make any drones because he has to keep making Hydralisks. And this is kind of the point where the attempt at making so many Zerglings is honestly backfiring, because that was the moment, the time in the game where he had to scale up really quick if he wanted to keep matching Toki without a choke as a Zerg. Because you give the Protoss so many different ways of having access to your base. If your choke is open, then you're kind of forced to only make Hydralisks for the entire duration of the game. Drop comes in here from the top side. There's nothing in between the drop, nothing in between the shuttle and its destination. Templars unload. Templar gets a great storm off, kills about another 16 this time. 18 drones go down. So that is pretty much the game here for LuckYback. Losing more drones once again, something he couldn't afford to lose, really. And LuckYback just sets himself up for a very simple recipe for success. LuckYback tried to cheese with the mass Zerglings, which is, in my opinion, honestly a cheese, because it's kind of dependent on a luck factor, which, LuckYback's name, it is LuckYback, but he doesn't have luck on his side. Luck does not have his back. Shuttle once again wriggles its way through around the Hydralisk. Drones trying to dodge a storm, but a storm does come down, but a storm misses every single drone there is. But he's got a Dragoon there in the mix as well, and Dragoon is just going to be annoying. So yeah, now it's just a matter of time before LuckYback dies, basically. I mean, he's going to die here. He's going to lose. Those Dragoons with the upgrades are going to tear through those Sunkens very easily. The Hydralisk do pose a little bit of an obstacle, but he can just pull back, focus on just the Hydralisks, and then go back in once again. So instead of like fighting both at the same time, you can pull back and fight one of the two. In this case, the Hydralisks. Very slowly progressing. LuckYback, honestly, I get what he was trying to do. I really get it. He tried to end it with somewhat of a... possibly a run-by, with those Zerglings going straight for the Nexus, knowing Tokyo would probably have a very low amount of workers. The non-zealot-lagged or non-speeded zealots would not be able to keep up with the Zerglings, so the Zerglings would arrive on the scene here at the Nexus before any of the units could honestly put up a solid defense. So it might have worked if at least like 20 or 30 Zerglings gotten through. But it got shut down by Toki just doing the standard stuff of making some cannons here in the front and having his zealots around it, to make it a really tough obstacle for those Zerglings to move through. And at that point the game was kind of done, because either LuckYback had to risk it and make a lot of drones very quickly, like into the number 50, and very quickly mass up with more hatcheries, more units. But Toki never really granted him the time. Another option, of course, is not losing drones to storm drops. That would have been another option, but that is honestly, while the less risky option, it is the harder option. Because with a risk, it either works, it's a gamble, you risk it, and if it's a 50-50 chance that it's going to work. So it's not really dependent on mechanics, so it's less risky in that sense, even though it's called a risk. Like when you have to rely on your awareness while fighting, and controlling and saving your drones at the same time while you're fighting and producing and trying to stay alive, it is threading it to the edge. Like you're threading on a knife's edge. It's really, really difficult, really risky, where any single mistake will be the end of the game. LuckYback managed to extend it quite some minutes. He had a pretty good counterattack with the Mutalisks, but it was for naught because he lost drones, and then it's the end of the story. And yeah, that's just the way the story goes, or the way life goes. That's life. That's what all the people say.